Everybody, welcome to Forge and Narrative. This is our Monday Night Live webcast. Thanks for joining us after the break. Last Monday was the national championship for college football, so we did not broadcast. We know there's at least a slight bit of overlap between people that might, want to hang out with us and people that might want to watch that.
Just a slight bit.
Chris, thanks for coming on. I'm glad your schedule is freeing up so you can take part in Mondays.
I know. I've kind of missed doing it. It's been one of those things that I've watched after the fact and was like, no, but you have to say it this way, or I feel like I've been slacking on my librarian duties.
Just a tad bit, but the way this works, it's Monday, it's Monday night. Not everybody can be here at all the time, so we're gonna kind of come in and out as we can. We're gonna keep it going though. Mostly in part to the folks that show up and watch, and people that watch it after the fact on our rebroadcast on YouTube. If you have not already subscribed, please do so. If you don't know that we do this live on Monday nights, we send out invites to everyone who's in our circles on Google Plus, and so if that's your thing or whatever, make sure you're in the circles and you get notification that we're doing this.
Hey, you want to be in that circle. We want that circle to get bigger.
So much awesome circle stuff happens.
Indeed.
Yeah. Well, I'm hot off my trip to South Carolina for the SCARAB event. That's a first-class event. I mean, I tell you, you can tell when people are doing things because they really care about the enjoyment of others and the hobby in general. And I was very happy to be there and be a part of that with those folks from South Carolina.
And there's a lot of hot 40K action that goes on over on the East Coast.
It's a bunch. And they were using the FAQ that we put together for Warzone Atlanta, and they were using the original FTN mission pack, the People's Missions.
Very nice. Yeah, I've got a guy that's helping me run tournaments for the local event coming up, and we're pushing to adopt those for our events as well.
I will most likely, because of I shouldn't say I've been slacking my duties. We've had a lot going on, but they're not updated for 7th edition the way that I would like them to be updated for 7th edition. So I'm going to spend some actual time this week or next or whatever and try to get those updated and republished with fully 7th edition compliant.
Yeah, that'll be very nice.
There are still things in there, though, that I want the tournament organizers to be able to kind of get their say on, because I don't want to tell anybody how to run their tournament, because you know how you feel about it. You assume the risk, it's your thing or whatever. So there's still going to be some things that are not necessarily hard lines, so you can take them and make them your own easily for whatever the folks in your environment want to do and play with.
Yeah, and from a TO's perspective, there's two mentalities to it. There's the I want to do it my way mentality, and the I want to do the least amount of work so I can have a presence mentality, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I think that the missions provide a good balance between the two, because it allows for some leeway, but it isn't so much so that you automatically have to step in and make those kind of calls. So I think that's good.
I will say the missions played out pretty much. I mean, they're tried and tested. I mean, they definitely are awesome. I brought an army that I know that I was going to have some trouble in certain missions, and I had trouble in missions, and I made that choice before I got there. The missions were, of course, published well in advance, so everyone could see them and make those similar choices. And very challenging, hard to max out in a lot of cases, and the people that did, they definitely earned their prizes, and these guys prized super deep. Very similar, mentality that we have.
That's good. Now, tell me a little bit about what showed up for the event. Like, what kind of lists are we seeing? Are we seeing things that we're expecting, like War Convocation?
There was some War Convocation there. There was a lot of Tau, a whole lot of Tau.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, probably the highest percentage of Army, I believe, was Tau. And Steve Booley's in the chat tonight. He might be able to correct me on this, but I believe that the highest percentage of armies outside of like Space Marines, because there's so many varieties of Space Marines, was probably Tau. And Eldar's in there, but there was Chaos. There was even a Sisters of Battle. There seems to always be at least one. So a mix of armies. I know. I see. My first the first game I played against a Tau player. The second game I played against Orcs and Chaos combined. Very aggressive.
Was it Orc Summoning?
No. They played. They had a drop pod, a Charybdis drop pod, with Karn and a bunch of Berserkers in it. Had some Chaos Marines hanging out in the back, and then about, I don't know, 35, 40 orcs to push in your face.
That's what they're good for.
Yeah, 2 or 3 war bosses. I mean, it was in a very aggressive list. The next round, this is where you get that tournament haze going on. Like, I don't remember what I played the third round, but I remember I didn't have a bad game. I enjoyed every single one of my games, even the one I lost. I lost against a Raven Guard list. That we've talked about the power of Raven Guard on this show a lot, because I think it's kind of like the sleeper, and with all the push that they've got recently, it's really helped make them be competitive. Now, the guy that played the Raven Guard, he went 4-1, and I actually attribute my loss to my Wraith Knight basically twirling his sword in the air like a baton instead of actually hitting people with it.
Oh, man, I can relate to that so much. I played a tournament about a week and a half ago, and I had some very, very fail hit rolls with Dante. Like, I've got 6 attacks on the charge, right? And, because he's in the Flesh Terror Strike Force, so I'm rolling like a 10 on the charge and getting the rage, and I'm getting all this stuff. Mastercrafted Power Axe, and I hit once. 3 separate rounds of combat. He lost combat to a Tech Marine.
Yeah, that's pretty much what my Wraith Knight did. Now, the fact that the game was lost on that alone, one model underperforming, means it was a great game in my opinion. The guy won with class and dignity, and great opponent the whole way. I enjoyed that game, even though I got my teeth kicked in and had my champion, who's supposed to be earning his points, just kind of dirtling around. But hey, it is.
Especially considering the discount you get on what he can do for those points, right?
I know, right? Like, come on,
how dare you underperform?
I don't ask much, but have my super unit be super. That's all I want, But anyway, very, very fun time. I played against a Necron list in the 5th round, and that was also enjoyable. It's one of those Necrons. I took a Warp Hunter, the Lynx, and a Wraith Knight. It wasn't until round 3 that I discovered that the Warp Hunter has Barrage, because you guys know that I'm just kind of painting this thing up and I'm getting ready to take it to a Adepticon with us. And so I just wanted to test it out. So I'm just kind of playing with it and see what it can do during this tournament. And it turns out the Warp Hunter did more work for me than the Lynx pretty much in every single game. Now, the Lynx did what it did, and I certainly did get some D shots off with it, and it was a magnet for attention because it's so big and it looks cool, and it has all these scary sounding rules and 5 hull points.
Kill the shiny syndrome.
Yeah. So I mean that in itself is valuable, but it may be the fact that it was there took enough heat off the Warp Hunter. But I played Stephen Kosker. I played Knights and Guard round 3. That's what I don't know. Anyway, great. The Knight list did not last very long. That was, but that's expected, right?
Yeah.
Three things capable of pumping out D are going to get work done against Knights.
Yeah, that's the truth, especially if it's unmodified D.
Yeah, and it was. I think I took one out with the Lynx, another one out with the Warp Hunter, and then the Wraith Knight charged one and took it out. So it was pretty much one of those games where you just kind of stomp through and move on with your life, and it's like, hey, this is just the way it worked out this time,
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's very likely that it's going to end up happening that way, but you can't guarantee it because dice.
Yeah, as aforementioned Wraith Knight.
That's what you bring it for.
Oh, and it's that nightmare scenario, man. It's literally that nightmare scenario where it's a progressive objective game, right?
Okay.
The things in the mission packets has. So he's got a unit of Marines that have come out of a drop pod, and the squad is kind of fanned out a bit. So where I make contact with the Marine squad is 4 inches away from the objective. The drop pod, however, is only 2 inches away from the objective. So I'm not contesting or scoring any points on this objective, and I can't kill this stupid Marine to move any closer to it for 4 rounds.
Ah, man. And they shall know no fear bites again.
We'll talk about Carl Short asking about the Raven Guard list, and it is good. It's very good. I had some course reserve manipulation, had a shot strike kill team, had the ability to pick and choose to fail the leadership test, which was huge in combat. And anyway, good list, great list all around. Like I didn't play anybody who had just kind of a non-optimized list, so the competition was high. You felt like you were playing a game in a tournament every single round you played. The energy was, but still in a very relaxed atmosphere, very much that atmosphere that we say that we kind of prefer to play in. These guys nailed it, and just a joy to be there. Can't say enough about that event. I'm sure that it is going to grow and be another destination event here in the South.
Hey, well, we can only hope that for all events, really. As much as people talk about 40K dying out, I haven't seen an area where 40K has disappeared, and it seems like it's growing in most places, to be honest.
Yeah, 40K is still the giant thing in the room. You know, that's what people are playing the most of. The next is probably War Machine. You know, after that is probably like Kings of War or something at this point.
It's hard to keep up with all the tabletop stuff that's going on with the advent of crowdfunding and the increased number of developers. There's just so many cool games that are out there. I wish I had more time to play them.
Yeah, Doc Savage, Kent, good to see you. Carl, I mentioned you earlier, but thanks for coming in. Steve, awesome. Steve is one of the organizers for the SCARAB, and I can't say enough good things about him. I mean, I had a good time. I didn't feel rushed during my games. I didn't feel like the judges weren't present. I mean, the terrain was good. There was a generous amount of terrain on every single table that played during the game. It wasn't, anyway, just a great event. Very happy to have been there. Happy to travel up there with a good buddy of mine. My buddy, he missed coming in last place by 1 game, because he beat the guy that came in last place.
Okay, now that's one of those things. Like I've been in that situation before. I'll own up to it, where I'm fighting for last place, and no matter whether or not you win, you still feel like you're losing.
Yeah, but he had a great time. I mean, he did. I asked him. He said he had a blast. I mean, just being up there and just the camaraderie was rich. And. I think we hit Wild Wings. I'm pretty sure that Buffalo Wild Wings is somehow code for next to 40K tournaments. Like it must be an anagram for next to 40K tournaments.
Yeah, well, that's why I always have to drive a little further to get food, I guess.
This is a little bit of a sleepy place, though. Like there was never any competition for restaurants. Like you pretty much could get a seat wherever you went.
Hey, that does not suck. That does not suck.
The event took place in a little small gaming convention. So we were in one hall of the room, or of the event space, and next to it was like open gaming. And I say open gaming, I'm talking about like a banquet hall worth of open gaming with full tables, people playing all manner of different types of, some role-playing games, some card games, other tabletop games, not miniature-based games, but board games and stuff like that. Neat. And then the hall over from us, they had role-playing games, filled that place up.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So that's like the grown-up candy store.
Yeah. Chandler from Facing the Great Tide is checking in here saying that they're about to start to record a podcast. So if you listen to them, another one's coming up soon.
Yeah, man. Maybe they can pirate our signal a little bit for their blooper reels.
Those guys are holding it down. I mean, it's as far as like just keeping the hobby going. This community has never been in a better place, I don't think.
Yeah, I would say that for the community and for the game itself.
Yeah.
Been having we have some new players that have started up, and we create these local Facebook groups so that we can communicate with people about setting up events and games and things, and it's been a really neat tool. But it's always nice to see new people coming in, and a lot of them will ask the question, I haven't played 40K since 4th edition. How's the game now? And I just have to put every time I say I've had more fun with the game in 7th edition than I've had since 3rd edition.
John,
and I believe that.
Yeah, it's just it's different. I mean, I don't want to say it's certainly not different, but I have a good time with it too. You do have to kind of roll and adapt a little more, I guess, quickly than you would have in previous editions. So everything is essentially jazzed. So everything's running 1,000 miles an hour.
You didn't do your jazz hands.
Oh, but I don't mind that. I kind of like it. I kind of like not the thing that I really like about events now, going to tournaments, is that I could conceivably play against more than just the same list or same 3 lists. Yeah, on every table. Now,
yes, that is my absolute favorite thing about it.
I didn't play anybody else playing Eldar, but I certainly was the guy playing Eldar.
Paul, you the guy playing Eldar. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. The guy playing Tau complained about my army the entire time.
Oh man.
But that is such an exception to the rule. I couldn't not mention that. And it was life talk time. I was like, hey man,
gamer shaming.
I was like, yo man, don't complain about the army until the end. That's my, that's just please don't.
Just don't complain about the army in general.
I don't care. I don't care if you complain. It's like, don't complain while you're winning the game. It's like,
right. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But that's such a rarity. Like even that guy was fine. It's just like such a cool event. I couldn't not mention that. It was just that's the kind of stuff that I find hilarious.
That's super funny. No, I remember on my last game at that tournament, I was fighting an orc list with Void Shield and some Bully Boys. And those are the Mega Knobs in trucks. You know which formation I'm talking about? That's out of the Gazzy book. The Gazcool supplement.
I believe I know 25 man.
And Dante got stuck in and charged by 2 groups of Bully Boys and a mob of boys with a Sanguinary Guard. Sanguinary Guard all died after killing some stuff. But Dante survived, making 4 out of 5 of his invulnerable saves, and then proceeded to kill about 4 or 5 Bully Boys in subsequent combats. And the guy was like, oh, this guy's broken. I'm like, I'm playing Blood Angels here.
Yeah.
You can't call me broken, bro.
Dante is broken. If you didn't come with a 400-point tax to even take him, maybe so.
Oh, man. He is so good. I mean, when he's making more than one hit out of all
I love him. Yeah, Dante has always been a trooper for me, for sure. Today I did some, we're talking about checking in on hobby progress. I'm, of course, still painting everything within arm's reach over my painting table. And today I broke out Hector Rex, a fine cast Terminator librarian that I picked up at the local store swap meet a couple of weeks ago, and my last 2 Grey Knight Terminators that I have. So I'm going to finish out those guys essentially in 4 more Terminators, and then I'll be done with Grey Knights for a little while.
Just about had a heart attack when I heard you picked up a Terminator librarian to paint.
Well, I was using a Terminator that I just cobbled together out of the Grey Knight Terminator box. Because they're good, they're great models, and they come with enough bits that you can make them look character model-y, kind of thing. You agree with that?
Yeah, no, I've used those kits for customization on a whole bunch of different stuff. I make custom librarians out of the Strike Squad kit.
Yeah. So when I got this good deal on this Terminator, I'm like, oh, he's got to be a Grey Knight. I'll rip the staff off of my other Terminator, and I'll make him another special weapon guy, like an incinerator or something. Sure. that I don't have a lot of or any of really in the army, just to have something else to pull out of the box if I want to. And so I figured, why not? And it's going to be fun to paint. That gold scheme that I have, I pretty much got it nailed, about how I want it to look. And it looks pretty good when I'm done with it.
No, that's good. As long as you're happy with it, really, that's all that matters. But it is a nice departure from what you could call the a ghastly silvery look.
Yeah.
That it's just so proliferant among Grey Knight schemes, which, I mean, and it still looks good. It's a nice, clean, shiny look. But if you're wanting to stand out a little bit more, you've got your gold scheme, and I do a quartered scheme that's red, silver, black, and no, I think that's just about it. Red, silver, black, sort of quartered. And then depending on like what fast attack or heavy support, I change where the black goes on the model.
I pretty much nailed my gold, and I did that a long time ago, but now I've kind of nailed the red that I put use on it to accent it. And I think it has a nice, I mean, we all know that gold and red go well together.
Naturally.
But that's why I started painting. I was like, man, I'm going to mess around with these Grey Knights. So if when Blood Angels change, if an entire Sanguinary Guard army is worth it, I want to know how to paint gold. I want to know how I paint gold.
Well, I had some pretty good experience doing that using some of my newer skills because I just finished a squad of 10 Sanguinary Guard, and those guys turned out pretty good.
They look great.
Maybe I'll get some of those some pics of those guys up on the Facebook when I get a better picture. But I went with the white wings instead of the red wings I had on my old ones just because I thought it'd be a bit more challenging, and it was. But it was also a lot more fun, and it's really cool when you see how far your skills have come. Because the Sanguinary Guard I did 5 years ago looked like crap compared to the ones that I did a couple weeks back.
Oh, that picture that you sent look great, look really good. I think once you throw some green on those bases, everything's just going to jump right off the table.
Yeah, I just got to get some tufts, man. I can't find any tufts around here.
Okay. They come in two
tufts
different
and rocks.
I mean, order them check out Dice Head or whatever. But they come in two different sizes, and I can't even begin to suggest what size to get. Like, I know I have the right size, and I went to go check my pack, and I've lost my pack. Anyway. There's chaos over there. You guys have seen some of the pictures. It's chaos over there. But I don't know what size to get. So if anybody knows what size tufts go on the 28mm scale figures, please let us know in the comments of the chat. Because I can't remember.
No, man, that's where my game is the weakest right now so far as the hobby goes. Is my base game is just very flat and non-colorful. I mean, it looks okay, but it doesn't have that. It doesn't match the quality of the paint job, in my opinion.
Like some of the washes, like Null and Oil, and whatever, and some of the secret weapon stuff. Which I got a funny story about that here in a minute. But it's a miracle product. The tufts of grass are pretty much a miracle product. You do, and I thought this was going to be BS, but you quite literally just pluck them right off the cellophane or whatever it comes on, a little piece of thin, clear plastic, and stick it right on your base, and then you don't do anything else.
That sounds too good to be true.
Yeah,
you're lying to me, TPM.
Right on. You just stick it on, and this is it. Now, I mean, you can, of course, embellish it if you want or whatever, but it doesn't need anything else. You just stick it on and walk away from it.
I would love something like that.
Yeah,
sounds
and
so easy.
I went on a quest. I'm going to be rebasing like 3 Marine armies. That I mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago with that Vallejo texture paint. I got the black lava. That's a miracle product. It comes. It's 90 times more than what you get. Not 90. It's if you were to buy the equivalent of that in the GW texture paint, you'd be paying like $85, $90.
Ouch.
But this is $12. And it's like 14 times more.
That does not suck.
No, and it goes on literally the exact same way. It goes on. You spread it on the exact same way. When it dries, it shrinks a tad bit when it dries. So there's obviously like some latex or whatever, something in the paint that I don't know. Latex, probably not latex. I'm sure it's acrylic of some kind, but it shrinks just a tad bit when it dries. Yeah, so you've got to maybe apply a tad bit more than you want, or just expect it and be okay with it when it shrinks a little bit. Now, it doesn't like shrink up and go away, but it may creep back from the edge a bit, or if you're going around something, it may creep back from whatever thing that you're going around. But once it dries, it dry brushes and paints up incredibly well, and it is on a efficiency versus dollar versus Games Workshop paints and texture paints. You can't beat it. So that, I'm sorry, I kicked my camera. That, the dry brushing and tufts of grass and a little bit of cork, and everybody's bases will look amazing.
Yeah, because that's what I do right now. Is I have cork and I layer 1 or 2 layers of cork, make some slabs and stuff, and then I have some sand that I glue in areas, and that's more or less what my bases turn out to be. But it's a desert kind of base, so it's very drab and lacks color, which sounds very desert-ish, but sometimes those little bits of color on a stark landscape kind of make it pop.
One of the brands of tufts of grass is meant to go in arid or burned out dry places.
I need to get some of that. I need to get a lot of that.
And just a little dry brushing on the cork. Maybe you put some other bits of. I know you've got variation, not just cork. It's like you got some gravel in there, don't you?
Yeah, I got gravel. I've got some very, very fine ground, like sand from the salt flats that are around here. And I just kind of vary between those. And I use about 3 different shades of color when I'm making those bases. Because I have a dark brown that starts as the base. And then I dry brush a lighter brown. And then I mix that lighter brown with some white to get another layer to kind of pop out the edges of the corners of the cork and stuff. So, I mean, there is some color variation there, but there's no greens or anything to liven it up. Yeah,
just that I'm telling you, that tufts of grass, find out what size to get. I'm not going to be any help. And then it will go, 1 pack goes a long way. I mean, it tells you it comes with however many it does, and 1 or 2 per base, and you're set. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, well, I've got a bunch of Marines to put it on because I've been painting Blood Angel Tactical Marines like nobody's business.
Yeah, and then look into that. There's several different versions of that Vallejo texture paint too. I mean, I get $12-13 Amazon Prime. I didn't even pay shipping for
it. Not paying for things good in my book.
Look into it. It's great. So gold, painting gold. I this is a comment. Oh, what was it? I was saying something about the secret weapon washes.
Right. Okay. There we go.
Alan, I painted his Ultramarines. It's no secret. They look good. Now that was the first army I airbrushed because I got some advice from the buy painting guy. He's like, if you want to get good at airbrushing, practice on your friend's army. I was like.
That's some sagely advice right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't jack up your own army. But Alan's like, I want to start playing. He was a chaos guy through and through, and he's like, I love it. Out of the blue, he's like, I love Ultramarines. I'm like, what has happened to you? All right. But I'm like, this will be a good opportunity to practice some painting an army. So I started painting his army. So I learned to airbrush. The angles and blah 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 whatever on his army. Then the next one I did for me was the Grey Knights. So I airbrushed that army, airbrushed the Grey Knights.
Yeah, and airbrushing metallics is always kind of a scary prospect for me. I always worry it's going to clog up stuff.
It doesn't, but I'll tell you what I do to prevent that if you like. So the white, I wanted to get a really good white, and this is about the time that the secret weapon washes had all come out. And the Games Workshop blue wash was too, it coated too much. It would stick to the flat surfaces way more than I wanted it to.
Was that the Drakenhof?
No, it was the Asherman blue, I think.
Okay, so the old Asherman. Okay.
Yeah, so
the one that used the Drakenhof.
But the secret weapon, if you just thin it down a little bit, I use cool gray. It goes just right in the recesses and just like this with next to the blue armor and that white helmet or whatever. It just like bam, bam. So he kept getting compliments on that the whole, now, take it for what it is. Yeah, but he kept getting compliments on him the whole weekend. And he kept telling them that I painted him. I'm like, dude, just let me tell you how I did it, and then you just fake it. Like, they don't need to know all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just fake it. All right.
Just tell them this is just secret weapon. Just practice this. It's secret weapon cool gray, diluted a little bit, painted right into the recesses.
Yeah, just you should do that with GMM. Just be like, oh yeah, totally, yeah, I faked that.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I just did that. I couldn't. That dude is so magical. I couldn't even begin to describe how he does his work.
I freehanded this. You see, I painted a triangle here and a triangle here, and then you see what I. Yeah, it was just like that. Just triangles. Just paint triangles.
Just a bunch of triangles.
Yeah.
Paint with. Anyway, and he suggested to me some cheaper brushes one time, like that you get well, painters use these. Real painters that paint like actual art use these brushes, but they were very inexpensive. It was like $8 for like a pack of 9 instead of $8 for one or whatever it is. And I tried them and I couldn't make anything work with them. But this is what he paints his masterpieces with. So the problem is clearly sitting in this chair.
yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, man. My most recent thing is this right here. You can't stop the signal.
Oh, is the command rhino?
Yeah, the Damocles command rhino for my 30K force.
Oh. Doc Savage, I have not read the Beast of Rises series. Please tell me why we should, and I'd be happy to check it out. Chris, you might have. You read a lot too.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. I am on a much tighter budget, so my book purchasing is behind. But the happiest thing here is check out those dudes on the inside.
They're actually calling down the orbital bombardment.
They are indeed. I even have like the screens are all painted with doohickeys and whatnot. The camera sucks, but
yeah, it looks good, man. It looks real good.
I'm getting tired. Andrew, I'm gonna chastise him. He says, "Yo, when are you gonna highlight this stuff?" I'm like, "It is highlighted, fool."
Just the camera.
I use 4 reds when I do my red.
Some cameras are not kind to highlights.
It's all good though. I'm not actually offended. It's just
I recently built 4 Blood Angel Praetor models, just in the hopes of getting some cool Rights of War in the next book.
Right? Yeah, I got the Terminator one and I've got a non-Terminator one, but I also busted out this Master of Signal.
Nice. I wish I'd taken a picture of it, but I took the Blood Angel sword, the cool power sword that comes on the Death Company bit, or the company
the one with kind of the single edge sort of katana style.
Single edge with the angel wing, and the whatever, and the nice
pommel.
the pointed pommel, and on the top part of the blade, like an eighth of an inch, quarter of an inch before the tip, I cut out a little half moon divot, so it's got a little bit of barb to it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It really changed the look of the sword, like a lot.
That's cool.
I'm going to try to do that more. It started because there was a bit of a sprue scab, on there, and I'm thinking I'll just shave it off. But I went a little too deep, and I'm like, well, let me see if I can fix this. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going deeper. Just going deeper.
Just own it. Just own it.
But I got a perfect, semicircle out of it, and it looks a lot more deadly, looks a lot more vicious, kind of in that same kind of that hard, jagged 30K edge that meets the rest of the miniatures.
Right. Yeah. I can't tell you how excited I am for that book to come out. That's one of the reasons my other books have not been purchased, is because I'm wanting that book.
Wait on that, yeah. Oh yeah, I don't have any expectations about it being amazing, but I at least want to play it. And that's one of the ways I'm getting some people back into the game that are not as hot on 40K right now, because look, change, it does. It's not great for everybody, but 30K has a lot of that feel, and we talked about this. I won't beat this up, but that's how I'm getting some more people back into the game, just to move miniatures around, and it's helping me be more excited about putting 30K stuff on the table too.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more with that. It's got that appeal, and it feels so much like third edition did in so many ways, even
Yeah.
down to the point values and the upgrades.
Steve, if
But
you're still hanging out, you can tell us if you guys allowed 30K in your tournament. I believe that you did because it followed the format that's kind of growing here in the East, the Southeast specifically, of allowing 30K into armies or into tournaments. And I bet as we get more releases, we're going to see more of them.
yeah, I believe it too, and especially as more of these Primarchs come down. I was very closely inspecting the Corax model that they've got at Forge World. They've got their studio photos on their website, and I tell you what, after seeing it painted and painted that well, I think that's my new favorite Primarch model. I'm going to come out and say it. I'm going out on a limb.
That's strong. Now, look, I can't tell you don't like what you like. That pistol seems out of place.
It's interesting because he's got another one hooked on his belt behind him, and he's got the whip hooked there too. And I know a lot of people were saying, "Hey, where'd that whip go?" You know, he's got a whip, but can you imagine how finicky it would be to have him holding that whip out with his arm?
I don't care though, man. That's you're gonna be careful with your Primarch models, and you should. It's $100 model that you're gonna spend who knows how many hours painting.
You imagine transporting that around though? Like that would break constantly if it was made out of resin. Now, if they found some way to cleverly make it out of metal and like have it fit into this slot in the model and all this, I mean, I guess it's possible.
That's what they used to do, but
yeah. But I just don't think that it's missing anything, and I love how dynamic the motion is.
I don't think it's missing anything.
And I think that especially once the paint job got put on there, because of course when it's just flat resin, it's hard to see what everything entailed is. You know, that jigsaw image from December. So people are just like, I don't like the way it looks. Well, wait for it to get painted. It gets painted, it looks great.
Oh, it looks 100 times better painted.
And then you get a whole bunch of different angles, like the face, for example. One of the things that people didn't like is they thought it was like a pseudo Fulgrim face. But I tell you what, Fulgrim wishes he looks like Corax.
Yeah, oh, that's true. Yeah, he's definitely got Fulgrim beat in the looks department.
So
in the grill department specifically.
that's the truth. But it's one of those things that Raven Guard are probably up there on one of my favorites for a Legion, and how they operate, how they do war, how they're described in the fluff. And I would really like to do an army for them, but the whole disposable income thing does not allow for as many Legions as I'd like to collect. But I'm sure people understand that.
Carl, one of the things that the person took in the Raven Guard list was the Raptor Wing, and that's the formation that has the 2 Storm Talons and the Speeder. And the Speeder can essentially call target for the Storm Talons, allowing them to reroll their armor penetration rolls on anyway, reroll their armor. That's it, long and short of it. And I'm not endorsing this formation, but that was one thing that he said did a lot of work for him over the course of the tournament. And against my army, it didn't do so much. By the time they were a factor, I only had a couple of vehicles on the list, but he said that had done a lot of work for him over the course of the tournament. And the good thing about this nomination of targets, there's a couple of different things in the Raven Guard list. It's not even I keep saying Raven Guard, but these formations aren't Raven Guard specific. Like they just happen to come out in the Raven Guard pack, a pack of stuff. But this is. You can nominate targets, and there's nothing about line of sight, nothing about if you're locked in combat or whatever. Just once per turn in your shooting phase, the land speeder from this formation can nominate an enemy unit within 18 inches and in line of sight. Or I guess it has line of sight. The unit is designated as a priority target until it is destroyed, or until a land speeder from this formation designates another priority target in a later turn. Storm Talon gunships from this formation can reroll failed to wound and armor penetration rolls when firing at a priority target. They can also choose to reroll glancing hits in an attempt to instead get penetrating hits.
So it's like Tank Hunter, but not calling it Tank Hunter, but it's like Tank Hunter and Monster Hunter wrapped up into one rule.
Against it work against not monsters too, just dudes, a guy.
Yeah, no, that's actually pretty neat.
Yeah, it doesn't stink. And again, he said it was doing a lot of work for him. And I don't, if you're somebody that likes to take storm talons, this is probably good formation for you because the land speeders are cheap. I don't, but we know people who do.
Adam.
Yeah. So these are the things, but this is part of the stuff that I look for. I look for things just like this because we get a lot of requests for army lists of people like, I really like this figure or that figure. Can you help me build a list around them? So when I see stuff like this, I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Well, and it's those things that come out of left field or the things that you're not exactly expecting that may or may not do well against you, but just to see them work, that kind of give you ideas and think about how this is affecting gameplay as a whole. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about not seeing the same thing constantly at a tournament, right? Do you remember at the end of 5th, it was like 60% Grey Knights. And
Yep.
it was all Drago and Paladins all day, every day. And that was not as fun.
On the ride home, my buddy, now we had a 3.5 hour car ride, so you talk about lots of stuff. My buddy convinced himself that he needed to make Assault Centurions work.
Brave man.
And by he convinced himself he needed to make them work means he tasked me with making them work. Yeah, and I just don't see it. They're strength 10, so.
And you can't even charge out of escape hatches anymore.
No. The best you can do, well, he likes Storm Ravens, so there's an option. He's not hot on Land Raiders, but he might get hot on Land Raiders. You never know.
And if it were 6th edition, Storm Ravens would be a semi-decent option because if they get shot down, it was only strength 9. So yeah, they might take a couple wounds, but they're not going to be instant killed. Nowadays, where the crash and burn, it's strength 10 AP1.
I'm pretty sure it was still strength 10 back then too.
No, it was 9. I remember it was 9. I'm 90% sure, but it was not strength 10. But
well, let's just say it's still a bad idea now.
I just don't. I don't like bringing Ravens to carry super valuable targets or large Death Stars or things like that. I've just seen it backfire too many times. It's happened with me once in the past. It's happened with a buddy of mine that I've done that to a couple of times where I put an honor guard in the Storm Raven with Pedro, and I shot it out of the sky. He was not a happy camper.
Yeah, man, I'm struggling with this Assault Centurions thing. I just don't know. I know people like them, and I know there's been a case for them for being used, but I don't see them as consistently performing enough to justify buying the models and then buying and building around them.
I'd agree with that. As much as it pains me to admit it, being a fan of Assault, the shooty Centurions are really the way to go.
Yeah, infinitely better. And I don't see Grab changing to the point of not being worth it for quite some time.
Especially with Hunter's Eye out there.
Yeah, Hunter's Eye is huge. Absolutely huge. So with that in mind, if anyone else has some suggestions on how to make them work, please let me know because I'm interested. It looks like they'd be fun to do. Kinda fun to do.
Well, when I see them, I'll let you know how they do. As of yet, I have not seen them ever.
Well, you won't because most people won't take them. And if they're going to, and there's this weird kind of mix of if you're going to get those models, you're going to put grab cannons on them.
That's what I got mine for.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's what everyone will do for them because that is the best thing to do with that expensive kit.
Well, coming from a player who doesn't have as much free access to grav amps in my normal army, when I do my Space Marines, and I have enough for a small Space Marine force, but I'm slowly adding to it. I basically put my my tournament prize money to increasing my Space Marine army.
Yeah, no shame in that.
And the most recent purchase I got was a bunch of Centurions. So when I get around to painting those guys, I'm going to be putting them in there with my Grey Knights as the supplemental force and do the standard sort of Tiggy, Drago, Gravstar sort of thing.
I started on my Luna Wolf Centurion squad, which I've not built any Centurions because I didn't. I got the parts to give them Sons of Horus heads,
Right.
And I was questioning about how they were going to look, but they look good. I'm happy with it, so I built one, and I'll build some more.
Kind of started a Horus Heresy thread in the Adepticon group for Horus Heresy, asking if anybody was going to have a problem with my Mars pattern rhinos. Quite an ideological debate sprung from that.
What was the consensus?
Well, it basically got, at the very beginning, the guy that runs the tournament said, as long as it's painted, it doesn't matter. And then a bunch of other people chime in and say, well, historically, blah, 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 blah. But then somebody took a picture out of the Horus Heresy book that had the Iron Warriors in it. So it's book 3. And it was a picture of an Iron Warriors Mars pattern rhino that was used during the Heresy. It was like, yep, bam, right there. It was in the Heresy. You can use it. Nobody make this person feel bad. No model shaming for you. Save the rhinos.
Save the rhinos. Yeah, I don't want to go back and have to redo all my rhinos. But apparently it's not even available right now on the Forge World site.
The Demos pattern rhinos?
Yeah.
Huh. I have to check that out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have some. I think they're really cool, and I like that. The first Space Marine army I played with belonged to one of my dad's friends, and he had a bunch of those original style vehicles that were the Demos pattern, and I love them. It's very nostalgic for me. I like to have some. It's just
the original ones are way tiny.
Oh yeah, they were so teeny at the time. It was funny when I got my Mars pattern rhino. I was like, wow, this is a lot bigger. Wow, that's really neat. But childish dreams.
You have good times. So yeah, but I wouldn't tell anybody not to use whatever rhino they have. When I built my army, I've got 8 rhinos of some variety, which never glue on the back hatch. They make them in your mind always be rhinos or razorbacks.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the one on top?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I never glue any of those.
Never glue that on. You might, and always buy razorback kits when you're buying rhinos.
Definitely. Sometimes you just get them in a box with one of those, like those old army boxes they used to sell that had the rhinos or whatever would come with the kit. They didn't come with the razorback parts, so I got a couple of those. But all the rest I've done razorbacks. Yeah,
so that's the only way to do it. Although now with Forge World, their turrets look so good. To get or pick them up aftermarket or whatever, and there's all kind of cool aftermarket products out there now.
Yeah, well, this Demos pattern rhino that I put together, I can use that as a normal rhino. All I have to do is just put the top hatch on differently. It's a bang boom, so easy.
But I was not going to be buying another 10 to 15 rhinos for the Demos pattern or whatever they are.
Yeah. No, I can feel you. It's one of those wants but not needs for me. So I'll eventually get around to it, and I'll get around to it for the tanks too.
Well, I like all my stuff to look consistent, and so I mean, it's like maybe I would buy one of those if I specifically wanted to be the command tank, or if there was another variant of a rhino that I wanted, I would get one to have that be the venerable one, or I mean, I don't know.
It's one of those things that like. There are visual cues that you can do on the table that help you and help your opponent by saying this rhino carries a stern guard squad. This type of rhino carries a tactical squad. And that's just a off the cuff example. But those little visual cues can be one of those things that help you keep your army straight. That's why all of my Storm Ravens are different in some way or another. So I remember what units inside of each one when I'm running more than one of the Storm Ravens. So that's the thing that I do. I'm not saying that's anything that anybody else should do.
Ken said he likes the new or the old rhinos. He said they're small but good. They're great in a lot of sight game. Got that old original orc truck thing going for them.
Truth. Yeah. Someone actually in that thread put up a pic of that first vehicle that looked like like a cross between a rhino and a speeder from Star Wars. You know which one I'm talking about? The hover speeder thing.
Don't even know.
It's from the Rogue Trader days, but it was one of the first vehicles that GW came out with. It's pretty funny.
The original land speeder had them like kind of sitting in the front, and they were like hanging out over like an amusement park ride. That's what it looked like. Yeah, I'm glad we're at the level we're at with design. The models look this better. That's part of what keeps the game as exciting as it is. The models are just so good, just so much better than anything else out there.
It's been nice that we've been talking about what we've been doing for hobby, and it feels like I've been doing a lot of hobby lately, but the more stuff that people do to improve the quality of the game while you're playing it, which painting goes in that category. Like the better the experience is for anybody. If I lose to a well-painted army, I don't even care most of the time, just because it's nice to be a part of that atmosphere, and it's very engaging.
Man, let me walk in the same room that I was at this last tournament. There was War Machine going down at the other side of the room, and walking down there, and just so many unpainted armies, and just like terrain that's just like strips of felt and that kind of stuff. I'm like, man, what did I get transported back to the early 90s? What is going on here?
Oh, I know exactly. That's one of the reasons I've never picked up anything for those games. And
that's not how the folks that I know have played it, but that's like seems to be what the norm is out, and I just can't get it, man.
Well, I mean, and not to be down on the game as the game is concerned. I'm sure it's plenty of fun, but it's not as engaging for me when 90% of the time, and 90% is generous. It's more like 95 or 96. The models just aren't painted, and the terrain is not used. There was at the Gladiator Games event that I run, we had this custom table that was built for a War Machine. And the people that played on it took all the terrain off and replaced it with felt when they were playing their game. And that was like the special top table, right?
What is wrong with these people?
And I'm just like, this looks really cool. Why would you take that off the table? Why? So cool.
I don't get it. I mean, I guess now in a game where you're playing just to win, then that stuff doesn't matter. But you could why even play with miniatures? Why not just play with tokens or chits or something?
Yeah, well, and it was kind of interesting because there were more War Machine players than there were 40K players at this last one. There was probably maybe 60 War Machine players on day one, but by the time day 2 came around, they were down to about 12. And we only had one guy drop because he got called in to do some work, but we kept, if only one person is dropping, we kept the majority of the people that were there. And I feel like people are more engaged and committed when the environment, and that's the environment includes the players, but that's also the environment that includes the tables, is finished and complete.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's a big picture, and once you start taking away things from that, chipping away at I guess the foundation of what we're all doing in the first place, then other things suffer as well. Well, let's go ahead and get ready to wrap this up. We're going to be hitting the podcast again, of course, every week like we have been. This week, talking about more hobby stuff, and as well as getting ready for Adepticon coming up.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Adepticon. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I think it's going to be real fun, and I'm looking forward to it too. But we're in that scramble mode, lining up everything. I made a sheet today with all of our team figures on it, so I can lay everything out and make sure I've got everything, and basically fill the holes that we need before now instead of a week from the tournament.
Yeah, behind every great Adepticon team is a large pile of logistical nonsense.
Yeah, and that's. It is rough. It really is sometimes, but I consider it part of the fun, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy that I'm really glad to be with some folks, i.e. you guys, that are willing to take up some of that planning and logistics and stuff this year.
Yeah, and one thing, folks, all you guys watching, just keep your eyes peeled on our Facebook page for more articles and things as we get closer to it. We had another Primarch School article that came up last week. And the Facebook doesn't always send it to your feed. Sometimes you have to come find us, but we're very happy to talk to you, take lists, answer comments. We just love interacting.
It's fun. It's fun. I was a little late, of course, going out of town delayed me getting some emails out, but today I sat down and replied to everyone that had sent us messages through the contact page on forgenarrative.net.
That's way fun. I mean,
yeah,
just to have that feature and have that, have people message in and know that they're reading and interacting is very satisfying for the work that we put into this. So
it's cool.
Thank you guys.
It's definitely cool. And we got more contributors. Everyone that's been on the show is going to be contributing some articles and stuff. Even Troop can't read or write, but he's going to be doing his best to get in there and hunting back on the keyboard.
That's right.
And I'm going to try to get hobby stuff out of Adam because that dude can paint. That dude can paint.
Yes, he can. I mean, I can paint, but he can paint. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Stuff looks good. I mean, he was a vote or two away from winning Best Painted again. And he actually pulled down with his paint score, sportsmanship score, and battle score one of the top prizes at this last event. So it was really nice to see somebody from the show doing that. Yeah,
I mean, that's a great accomplishment. We want to be good at all aspects of the game.
Yeah, and it's nice to have some well-rounded folks that we can bounce ideas off of. It's nice. Well, guys, I know we're just a couple minutes before 11, but might as well go ahead and wrap it up. Chris, I'm glad you were able to make it. Hopefully, you can join in this live cast next Wednesday or next Monday as well.
That's right. The FTN librarius needs to have more of a presence at these things.
I agree. It keeps us pronouncing things correctly.
Ish.
Thank you all for tuning in live, and thank you all for watching this after the fact. If you didn't watch it live, please subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave us a cool review in iTunes. The more stars, the better. Hopefully, 5. And we'll look forward to seeing y'all next week and keep on listening.
That's right. Thanks, guys.
See you around. Everybody.